my place. Hold on. This is making it into on October 27th, 2019. We left professional podcasting. On September 2nd, 2021, we have returned to professional podcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boys, Respass and Walt, with the return of Apron Work podcast. Hi, Mike. What'd you think of that?
Oh, hey, that was classic. This is the second first dance.
The second dance, if you must.
Yeah.
A soft hop, if you will. Oh, God.
The second most anticipated return this year.
Yep, obviously.
Is Apron Work podcast.
Oh, man. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing amazing. I feel the love from the crowd. I can hear everybody chanting our name while listening to this, all four of them.
Oh shit, I forgot. We're doing it differently this time. We're recording video with it because it's actually cheaper to upload on free on YouTube and other audio stuff. So I shouldn't mess around putting chapstick on my lips and stuff like that. So we're giving it a try. We're trying something different. So So let me start off with probably the most important thing. Mike, I'm officially handing the hosting duties over to you because you're going to be much better at this than I am.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. I wasn't prepared for that, but thank you. I
thought we literally just talked about this.
You didn't answer me, so
I thought
you ignored me.
Oh no, yeah. So we're back. We're trying this again. I don't know how regular will be, or if we've had enough fiber in our diet to be regular.
As disappointing as this may be, and we just discussed this, to try to keep it up, if we can't match up with times, I might do solo episodes. We have our old friend Carlos, who's been doing wonderful things with his Nerd a Day podcast.
He has, man. Some of the side podcasts he's been on have been great.
Yeah. So we would gladly welcome him to where he got his start. We are the.
Oh God, I forgot about that episode when we reviewed fucking, what the hell was it called?
The MTV wrestling. What it was called.
Hold on, I can look through our audio. But the real reason why we're back, and I think it's we can sit there and say we made a plan. Nah, CM Punk came back.
Yeah,
got us all excited, and it's just we need to talk about this because
it's been 2 years basically, right? That's what you're saying. It doesn't feel that long, but I guess
I don't know.
A lot of things not feel.
I don't know if that was our last episode. I was looking at some of the audio files, and it had created on October 27th. I thought
it sounds about right. There's a lot of times we were talking about coming back. A lot of things happen where we would say, hey, maybe we should do a one-off, but we both knew we really didn't have the time. Yeah. And then we had too much time, I think, for a year there.
Yeah, I know. And it was funny that we didn't record at all. I think Roy called us out.
Yeah, and now Punk has brought back that in us. And honestly, when we last recorded AEW, did it even start yet? I mean, it was just around the beginning of it.
One of our last things we talked about was we had tickets to the upcoming events. So you had tickets to the AEW show that was at Leocourt Center, and then the New Japan show that I couldn't go to because I was on a cruise at the time.
Yeah, and I went to the initial Dynamite.
Yeah, you went to that too. Yeah, that's right. Because the Philly one was was it the next
third one? I think it was the third episode.
Yeah, it was the third one because it was Washington, then Boston, and then us, I think.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh, I think was the week after. Either way,
you mean Pittsburgh?
Yes, Pittsburgh.
Oh man,
but
man, this is fun. It
was so new back then. I remember we were talking about it, hey, do we want to not focus on the WWE stuff? I mean, everybody seemed to like what we did. I think we kind of scatterbrained a lot of our episodes, and that's what I fully plan on doing again. I don't like this whole you review an episode and do all that stuff. Yeah, no.
And you prepared, so you've done more than me.
Oh yeah, I always try to be prepared. That's why I should be the host, because I'm the prepared one. Unfortunately, you have very little to add, so it's me talking while you.
Are you kidding me?
Throw in some one-liners.
Let's be real.
But now it's been crazy. It's been a crazy 2 years. But I know I want to stay on topic here. We can get on to everything else at the end.
Yes.
But everybody will have known by now that this is CM Punk centric. It is about CM Punk's return to wrestling. It is not the first night he came back because that's how we roll. We don't ever do.
We wanted to let it breathe.
Right away.
We wanted to let it breathe.
Yeah. We wanted to let it breathe.
And who knows if this episode will even be released. So we're recording this.
Somebody may hear this 10 years from now and be like, who's CM Punk?
We're recording this the Thursday before All Out. So the goal is hopefully to get this up before All Out. But
yeah. Maybe we could do a very quick predictions rundown at the end here. We'll see. We'll see how much time we have.
Honestly, I don't want to because Andrade and Pac is off the card.
I'm very upset about that. Did you see Andrade did say he basically put a post with him and a question mark? So
no, I did not see that.
As many of the rumors that I see that people want it to be, I have a hard time. I don't know how many rumors you've heard, but
I've heard nothing.
I have a hard time seeing this be Brian Danielson, I'm sorry. His first match being against Andrade because I don't see either one of them losing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I think are hopeful for that. And I think
what is it going to be like an open challenge?
Well, he just put I don't even know if they even announced it. They just he posted on Twitter or Instagram or something where he just showed himself with All Out behind him and it has him versus question mark.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, I didn't do that. So let's get back to Punk. So so funny thing is, I think we talked about this before. I wanted to do a Punk episode like when we were in our first round of this.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised we didn't.
I think we just held off on it and it just we had other topics and things like that. And it was just hey, I want to try to get one in because it he was coming back because I think maybe he was doing the Fox stuff, but I forget what it is. But let's do reactions, So beforehand, so I don't know. I got a lot to say about how overall I am so impressed with how AEW did this. Like when you look at like they sold out the United Center on 3 weeks notice on a rumor.
Yeah.
I think we were saying that I texted you how funny would it be if you didn't show up or they did something else with it.
I was at that point where I was and you said to me, you were like, I don't know if I want him to show up or I don't want him to show up because it'd be hilarious. And I had that same feeling. I'm like, you could it's one of those things. I think they already lost some people's trust by billing Christian's return as this humongous Hall of Famer signing, and it's not a knock on Christian because Christian is, he's a great worker and everything, but they billed it like it was a Lesnar or a Punk coming.
Yeah.
And it was Christian. And again, no knock on him, but it was Christian. It wasn't even Sting. I mean, Sting is a bigger name in that sense when he came. So it was really hard for them to do everything they did and not be him. But my God, I wanted MJF to come out. If he was not in a thing with Jericho, that would have gotten him nuclear heat. He's already gotten heat. But
that's where this is where just we're talking about trust now with AEW, and they're 2 years old or whatever the company is, and again, I didn't realize the United Center was never used for wrestling in years.
Yeah, I wonder if it's been used since the Money in the Bank. I
wasn't at the United Center.
It was.
No, because I thought JR said something along the lines that
he said he hadn't been in Chicago since 94. I've rewatched it a lot before that Rampage episode. I watched it. I watched that, the pipe bomb, and then I listened to his podcast
it was at
episode.
The Allstate Center. Yeah, the Money in the Bank was at the Allstate Arena.
I could have sworn they kept saying United Center, but maybe not. Maybe they weren't even referencing the center. I would have. Yeah, I would have bet money,
which is a different arena than the United Center. So yeah, I don't think professional wrestling was actually in that building since maybe 94, because WWE would have run other stuff there. If it was.
Now, Yeah, I guess it makes sense because they've been back to Chicago.
Yeah,
Um,
but like look at like
yeah.
all that like and they had like they sold it out on 3 weeks notice for their B show.
And it wasn't even the debut. It was the second
Second, yeah, the
episode
second episode,
called The First Dance that they
which is
basically dubbed The First Dance from
and it's just
that
to
day.
me it's crazy how like just like a rumor on it did caused all of that. And like that's where it's just like it's incredible that it worked. Like,
Yeah.
and this is where like when you go back and think of it, you couldn't have done the MJF, somebody else come out and do it, because then I think you would have lost like you made fans and people like, okay, like AEW is worth my money. Like when they say they're doing something or they're hinting at it something, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like
As I said, I think the Christian thing, I think it showed them that, hey, we can hype things, we can't overhype things.
yeah,
Because people's imaginations are going to run wild, even
like
if we don't say it. I mean, you don't randomly out of nowhere get the United Center for a second episode of Rampage, dub it as this great first dance, have Darby Allin come out and mention the best in the world on the same episode. I think almost like right after they air the video about how they went to go do it and a last minute thing. You can't do all that. I understand that. I'm saying like it would have given him nuclear heat, but then you almost had to have Punk come out right away.
yeah, they
Like
did.
you couldn't have, if you were to do it, you couldn't have MJF come out and then have Punk come out at the end of the night or something like that. I mean, people would have flat out turned the show off.
Oh yeah, it would have been bad. Like
Yeah. And it was the same reason why they couldn't wait to the end to bring him out. That crowd was going to chant CM Punk the whole night. They just
so
weren't.
the one thing I was going to bring up, and I'm pretty sure about this now, full disclosure, I was drinking a lot when that night, so was very excited. And but I don't think the crowd chanted CM Punk the rest of the show. And they don't do it.
I
like
don't think they did.
Yeah.
I don't think
and
they did.
They haven't done it in any other episode. Like chanted for CM Punk, like outside of where it makes sense. So like I think they may have chanted CM Punk at the end of the show when Darby Allin came out, which
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was even expecting. The funny thing is I called that ending, except I thought Punk was going to come out too. But I called that ending saying that Sting and Darby Allin were going to come out, and I thought maybe they'll get the upper hand, and this is a chance to get Punk to come in to kind of basically do what he did last night on Dynamite, where he gets to come in, give one of them to go to sleep, show that, hey, he's been working out a little bit, give it a bit of a tease. I love that they held off and waited for that, but I thought they were going to go for the jugular and have him come out twice and, do all that. So I was a little bit happy they didn't, but I was expecting it.
But yeah, they did that episode, I think, perfect. Like they built it up so perfectly. Like, so like you had the teases. Like they did those teases brilliantly, I thought, to where it like MJF.
They announced it without announcing it. That's basically what happened.
Which is like, it's so interesting that they did it this way, because it's just like, because now it's just like, if you see them doing something like that, it most likely means that it's going to happen. Now, this is where, like, depending on, maybe you get like middle tier stars or something like that, they do this and maybe they pull a fast one on us and not do it. But like when you get like the biggest name coming back, and they pulled it off. They pulled it off brilliantly. And like, so what you think? Like, so I was pumped. When
it happened, or like the lead up?
We'll talk when it happened first. So like they, like when that static hit, I'm just like, I just kind of did a crooked sideways. And then I hear Cult of Personality. I just scream, yeah. Like I just go like full fist pump, beer in my hand, like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm just watching the TV. And I just see him walk in. I'm like, oh my God, they did it. They fucking did it. They got it. They pulled it off. Pop. Oh my God. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I haven't for a while now, I have kind of stopped the whole WWE NXT thing. I'll still read results here and there, but I really have not watched it. I have watched AEW pretty much religiously, at least for the last year or so. I don't watch the YouTube shows and all that. I might read results here and there if certain guys are on there, but usually because I work overnight, I'll end up watching a replay of it. I don't usually watch it live. I did not want to watch a replay of this. I did not want to accidentally click on Facebook and have everybody show me that he was there. So I woke up at 10 o'clock on Friday, which I work at 11 anyway. It's not a big deal. But it's the first show in a while that I've watched live that wasn't a pay-per-view.
Same for me.
So I was there waiting. I mean, I got up 10 minutes early, made sure everything was working, sitting there.
Oh.
I had Jess, my fiance Jess, with me, because she was probably a bigger Punk fan than I was. Like, she was into wrestling when Punk, the whole pipe bomb and everything. So
Summer of Punk.
So she's interested in it too. And I was not. It's one of those things. I was not the biggest fan. I wasn't a Punk fan like you were. But I appreciate Punk. It's kind of like The Rock for me. The Rock was never my favorite. I don't know that he'd ever be my favorite. But when he made his return to wrestling, the first time, and probably every time since, it still gives me chills when he comes out and he talks.
His entrance, man.
It just does. It's the same. Stone Cold, the glass shatters, chills. The Rock, chills. There's certain guys that give you those chills. I mean, Hogan kind of stopped for a while, even Flair to a point when his actual music, not when he came out to an NWA.
Biggest chills I've gotten in an entrance is Punk was probably one of them. And what I was watching video was, but WrestleMania, when we watched The Undertaker enter the ring at Cowboy Stadium, like that still gives me chills, just because it's like, as you and I, lifelong wrestling fans,
right?
This is,
and that's what I will say, that in a non-live setting, that probably gave me the most chills I've ever had watching wrestling. And I'd say probably since I was a kid and I watched Ric Flair and Hogan wrestle for the first time. And it was like the first time in a while I sat down with my dad and my brothers and we watched it, because my dad was a big Flair fan. We were kids, we were big Hogan fans, when I think the first time they wrestled in WCW, where they build that as a huge thing. I'm going back that far to probably the most excited I was watching at home. And I'd even put the Punk return up to the level of us being at WrestleMania. Like, that's where it was. I mean, I'm saying and maybe because it was a week of events when we went to WrestleMania, but like, I legit watched Money in the Bank, the lead into Money in the Bank. I watched it over and over and over again for a week. I listened to Colt Cabana's 2 episodes with CM Punk about everything multiple times leading up to it. I have watched his return to wrestling 20 plus times now. I just have. I just sit there and I watch it, and every time the music hits, it's chills over again. It just has not
that pop, man. Like that is like that's where like it's incredible. Like, this is where just like you go back to like the trust and all that stuff. Like that, the music that they played and him, like, because it's just like they're doing it. Like, it's actually happening, and it's just like we put our faith in Tony Khan and AEW with this. Like, listen. 2 years they got to build this awesome brand, and it's like, listen, has it taken over for WWE, like to the point to where I do get like they're not competing with WWE, like they're trying to do their own thing. And that's what I say, and it's just like, all right, they're just out doing their own thing. They're not trying to throw, it doesn't seem like they're trying to throw full shade at them. They do sometimes, just because you can't avoid it when you're in the same industry, but it's just like you had all these little things, and it's just like, all right, you're getting these guys, you're pulling these guys in, you're having fantastic matches, you're doing all the right stuff. Everything was going great, but nothing was necessarily, I would say it, I don't want to say it's must watch TV, like, because here's the thing, I go to bed early. I'm like in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So I don't watch AEW live. I don't watch really any of the wrestling's live. I always watch it on DVR, and it's usually in the background or something like that.
Right.
These Punk things, like, it's now drawing me back into where, like, listen, last night, watching Santana Ortiz and FTR, like, that was I was just like, okay, this is starting to come back to more much watched TV now, because they did something. They held a promise. They made a promise with their audience that, hey, we're doing a thing. And listen, they've done it before, but this is the biggest one. This is like, hey, we're doing this huge thing. Trust us, trust us without saying it. And they pulled it off.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I think up to this point, I mean, I know that the Moxley thing was huge, but up to this point,
it was big, but it wasn't.
Sting so far is the only thing you can kind of compare, but you're talking about if it was Sting 10 years ago. Like, that's the only way I can really compare it. Like, Chris Jericho, when they first announced AEW and he came out, it was huge because he was named, but it's still old man Jericho. It's not in his prime
Punk,
Jericho.
Like, this is where
CM Punk is close enough to his prime.
And he has 7 years of no wear and tear on his body, really, from wrestling work body. Obviously, he did the UFC, but like, even that wasn't fully consistent. So he's been working out. Like, he doesn't have, like, the Darby Allin match, like his, I don't know. I think now we're getting too ahead. So like,
when I guess I'm trying to compare it to something in wrestling history, and I know a lot of people want to compare it to NWO, and this is not this is not meant to be a knock on those guys, but it's the absolute truth. Whether you like Punk or you hate Punk, or you think he's a dick, or you think he's too small, or whatever, I don't care what you have to say. Punk is still in the top echelon of superstars over the last however many years. If you want to tell me that he didn't draw like The Rock, who did? You want to tell me he didn't draw like that? I mean, I'm going to get on that Roman Reigns comments later, but like, okay, he's not Cena. He's not The Rock. He's not Hogan. That's great. You're talking about three of the biggest names in wrestling ever. And you're saying he's not at their level? You're telling me him being right below it is still better than 99%.
Here's what I'll say about Punk. I think this is probably a good comparison. Maybe you had Hogan and Flair in their heyday. Hogan was the WWE guy. Flair was the WCW, NWA guy, whatever it is. Hogan was the sports entertainer. Ric Flair was the wrestler. They were both the top of the game. CM Punk is that Ric Flair to a point of this, to where he is the best wrestler. And he's not Flair necessarily.
And he's an entertainer. He's an entertainer. Flair was entertaining.
Yeah.
Probably more entertaining than Hogan. And that's the funny thing about it.
But that's where Hogan was more popular.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, you'd have that comparison. So it's similar to like Shawn and probably even Shawn and Hogan. Like those guys. Like right. Punk's the wrestler. And Punk as the wrestler is never going to be the same levels as the Hogans, the Cenas, the Rocks, the Roman Reigns, because they're more entertainers. Like they're that sports entertainment mentality. So like Punk's never going to be up there, because the way this industry is, I guess, is to say, is like the best wrestler is not the top drawer. That's why your wrestlers were always the Intercontinental Champion. It was always the workhorse belt.
Yeah. At least in WWE. And I think that's where AEW...
That's where their counter program. AEW is basically indie wrestling with a budget.
Yeah. And it's real. I hate to do this divide and everything, but it is wrestling fans as opposed to WWE fans, and that's 100%. I mean, I go through this conversation with my dad every year. I watch the NBA. He tells me that's not basketball. He says it's not basketball. He says it's street ball. And it has become that. And I can understand why people who are fans of pure basketball might not be a fan of NBA.
This basketball topic would be a great conversation for Let the Big Dogs Eat podcast.
But I'm just saying, like, I can
shout out Matt Fico. Yeah. Respass.
R.I.P.
The Big Dogs Eat.
But I got way off topic.
So hold on.
I was comparing it to history though, real quick, before I get sidetracked again. And a lot of people compare it to Nash and Hall. Nash and Hall were not at the top of WWE and then went to WCW. They just weren't. They weren't. Shawn Michaels going would have been different. There was different guys. You can't even compare it to Hogan because fans in WWF at the time were already getting sick of Hogan.
So this is where you can't compare it to, like, it's a hard comparison because, like, listen, you can, I get see Hogan or Hall and Nash, it's comparable to level because Punk wasn't top of WWE at the time. He was like, that upper mid carder. He was that main event player. He was that main event player that was doing the mid card stuff just because that was kind of where his place was falling.
But he should have been at the top, and I think that's where the difference is. I don't think anybody thought that Kevin Nash wrestling wise should have been at the top.
But this is where you can't compare because he was gone for 7 years with no
I know
no idea of coming back. To me, it's more similar to like the Edges and the Daniel Bryans. If anything, it's comparable to Edge. To where just like,
but the worst part, and I think it's even harder to do that because those guys didn't quit because they wanted to. Like Punk quit, and I'm not saying it was just because he wanted to, and I don't like when people say he quit on the fans and all the stupid shit. But for the most part, he quit because he could still go. He just quit. Yeah. Like he was like, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore, and he left. And all that other stuff happened, and it's a lot of he said, she said, and it's all fresh in my mind because I listened to that podcast episode not that long ago. But like, I again, the only thing I can kind of think of in history that should have been at that level was when Ric Flair ended up in WWF
in '92.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can kind of compare it to, where you have a guy who felt like he might not have been treated fairly in a place that he should have been the face of in WCW, and then went to WWF while he was still Ric Flair. He wasn't 60-year-old Ric Flair tagging with Batista. You know, he still could have been the guy. The difference was he went to the land of the giants, and he was never going to be treated like Ric Flair at WWF because they don't treat anybody that they don't make to that level. So, but I'm saying as far as debuts or
there's no comparison, I think, to it.
Yeah, because, that's why I said that's the only thing I could think of in history that might be kind of like wow, Ric Flair is NWA, he is WCW, he's that.
Where the closest is Shawn Michaels losing a smile. Like that's I don't know. So the Roman Reigns stuff, I don't know if you and I are going to disagree on it, but like you're talking, I love the Roman Reigns comments.
No, I'm not. I'm going to refer to more the people who take what he said at face value.
Oh, he was just like he's just playing his tribal chief character,
exactly.
Which is, I thought it was brilliant. Like, and I do like it when they like. It's weird that I'm going to say acknowledge. I'm not trying to do it ironically. But when he like acknowledges, just like, oh yeah, Punk didn't move the needle like I do, or something like that. I'm like he's playing his character perfectly. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but see, the funny thing is, and I didn't really listen to it. I kind of read little bits and pieces, but for the most part, it sounds like he said, he doesn't move the needle like The Rock. He's not as big of a draw as John Cena, and it's not false. I mean, everything he's saying is not false. It is not. I mean, Punk is bigger than wrestling purely because of the pipe bomb. I mean, you can't really say a whole lot. That pipe bomb put him bigger than wrestling. His work it didn't. His pipe bomb did. That is what put him at another level to the point that he can go do MMA, that he could leave and it becomes a bigger deal than anybody showing up, because the pipe bomb put him on the map. If that pipe bomb does not happen, I don't know.
Oh, if that pipe bomb doesn't happen, CM Punk loses in Chicago, he leaves WWE, or he does sign a new deal, and he's just again put in the mid card.
And let's say he leaves and comes back the same way he did. It's a big deal, but not quite as big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's just not. It wouldn't be anywhere close to the level it is. So, I mean, that pipe bomb put him on the map, but in all honesty, it's no different than anybody else. That Austin 316 at the King of the Ring almost lives bigger than anything else Stone Cold did. You know, they still, when they reference Stone Cold, you go back to then.
Yeah.
You know, The Rock, I know he's mostly known for his one-liners more than anything else, you know, his catchphrases. But like you said, he was playing the part. He has to downplay it. What's he going to say? This is huge for wrestling. My company couldn't sign this guy. He could have put us on the map. Like,
he answered it the best. He answered it the best way possible, to where he's just like, he's trying to downplay it, but it's also in his character to downplay it.
Yeah.
To say, like, you know, he answers the question as what he can, and to his point, like, maybe he does believe that CM Punk can't move the needle like them, but again, it's
like I said, it's laughable to a point, because as bad as WWE lifers are, that I consider myself an AEW fan now, and I hate to lump myself in with that, but there's a lot of people that they get so offended over stuff. Like, I can't stand Jim Cornette. I will listen to. I'll listen to him from time to time. I can't stand to a point, because he sounds like an old man who likes old school. We both agree that MJF's the man. I mean, I love MJF. I know he likes FTR. He doesn't like the way they do things. That's fine. That's not his cup of tea. It doesn't have to be. I could see why AEW wouldn't have to be everybody's cup of tea, but to get mad at it to the point that you're like,
it's his job to get mad. It's the same thing as the first dudes, or like.
But I'm saying AEW fans in general. That get so pissed off about all this shit. Nothing Roman Reigns said was wrong. He basically said he's not as good as a handful of the greatest.
Yeah. He
didn't say he doesn't move the needle quite like Bailey does. You know what I mean? Like, no offense to Bailey, I'm not knocking her. I was trying to go somewhere that wasn't all-time great. But is good now. Like,
when you're comparing. Listen, it's like if you compare every basketball player to Jordan, which I think this discussion is.
And that's what happens. Yes.
And that's what basically is like Roman, and that's how Roman Reigns tries to downplay, because you can because it's a very easy comparison for him to say, oh yeah, he's not, you know, LeBron's not Jordan. Yeah, that's the biggest one you hear, and that's
like, oh wow, he's the second greatest player of all time.
Exactly.
I'm sure he's up at night, mad that you're calling him not Jordan. Okay.
Yeah.
I see a quote.
Side note, and I wish, this is my only one little tweak I wish he would have did, because for his return, I wish the shirt that he had on had a 45 on the back. That was the only thing I wish.
I agree with you.
I think that would have been a perfect touch, like, because
did
you see the pin he had, the Punk?
I didn't see the pin now.
Oh, I'll send it to you now, because I bought a red one, so I'll message it over to you. But no, it was like cool. It's like a Chicago Bulls jersey, with just XX on it, not for like the straight edge stuff, but then his was white, but this one I'm sending you is red, because it's their away jerseys, and I think it looks
okay.
Cool.
Oh wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, he had that on. I just wish he had like a 45 on it, because I think it would have been just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But so all right, let's because the one thing that sucks about how we're recording this time is we don't have a timestamp for how long we've been recording for. So
yeah, you know it's funny. And I will talk about let the big dogs eat. When we were doing those, we were recording this way, and I actually would have a stopwatch off to the side, and I would start it when I started it, and I forgot to even suggest that. So yeah, I have absolutely no idea when we started this.
I forget when we did too. So that's why I'm
Um,
just trying to move it along a little bit,
yeah,
as a good co-host since I'm not the host anymore.
yeah, we'd probably end up talking for 2 hours.
Yeah. So
Um,
what has been so real fast, we'll do a couple quick. What was your favorite reference to Punk was coming out of like the teasers that they gave? What was your favorite one?
um,
Was it the Darby Allin? Was it the Bucks doing the
no, it had
top
to be
rope,
the Cookie Monster.
the Cookie Monster T-shirt from
Yeah,
Omega?
because I didn't notice it at first. The Chick Magnets one that he did, I noticed almost right away. Maybe it's because it happened afterwards, but I did not notice the Cookie Monster one right away when they were doing the whole basketball scene in the back.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think weren't the Bucks. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of reference it like the Bucks were wearing Hawaiian shirts, so they were referencing Bray Wyatt is what they were saying, and um
That
and Gallows had a robe on, so they were saying it was Ric Flair, and like that, everybody was like kind of reaching
it's
and
like
everything.
it's like
but
the Sergeant it's like the Sergeant Pepper's album cover for or no, I'm sorry, the Abbey Road album cover where it had all these like little hidden things.
yeah,
I
but
think both of them, I guess technically, yeah.
it definitely yeah, I'd say the Cookie Monster
I
was
think MJF's promo is what
yeah.
I just love that it was like the subtle reference to the pipe bomb in there, and it worked well for the thing. I also appreciate too because it seems like the way AEW how people talk about it is they kind of let them do whatever they want.
Right.
So I'm curious how that was beforehand. If like Tony Khan said to him, "Hey, can you make some subtle references to like, can you do like, did they write that for him, or did they say,
Right.
hey, can you make a good reference in there, or did MJF saying, hey, since we're teasing this, can I do this? Can I make a reference to his pipe bomb in my promo when I have to talk with Jericho after it?" So
Right.
again, all really well done. The Cookie Monster Chick Magnet shirts were great.
Well, the one thing I think that has me most excited about this over everything else, because there's still, no matter what he says, no matter what they say, you still have that in the back of your head that you're going to see a lot of them now, and then you won't see them for a couple of months, and then, I'm just saying there's that possibility, especially when it headed into it. And I know they had the interview with him afterwards that I ended up watching, where he said, "No, I'm here," like. The beauty of it is there's no house shows. They record Rampage, I think, every other week or like 2 out of 3 weeks or something like that on after Dynamite or whatever. So like even now AEW Dark's being moved to the Impact Zone just so they don't have to record so much. Well, the old Impact Zone.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a burden. Like he's not going to have that crazy.
He's got to show up to 1 or 2 shows, and most of the time Rampage and Dynamite are going to be in the same city. So even if it's live on Friday, it sounds like it's not like you're going too far. It's, you're not running around doing all this stuff. So it sounds like he's interested. And think about how many times you watch Dynamite and like Omega's on there and like, this is great, but it could have been pre-taped. I mean, I'm assuming Omega and the Bucks are at most of the shows, but like, they can pre-tape a lot of shit with him in the back with him not actually being there.
Yeah, it's just going to be a balancing act between like, I hope they're not stepping on like glass or stones or whatever the phrase is, needles, stepping on needles with them to be like, oh, let's not have them here every week. Here's the one thing where, listen, I'm excited for the Darby Allin match. I think it's great. And I like how they're just like, hey, I'm here to wrestle a guy. There's no story with it. It's just like, he's a young guy. And it's Punk. This is where I'm gonna just get. I hope at some point we actually get some stories.
Yeah, and I think
I'm
think you will see it after this.
I'm concerned like for the next like I don't know 6 months that you're gonna get these like just redemption stories of be like, I want to wrestle Jungle Boy because he's another young guy. I want to wrestle Brian Pillman Jr. and whatever other names he said.
I think we've already seen this story with Christian and with Sting when they first came in. It seemed a lot to do about I wanted to be here, I wanted to be against these guys and all that other stuff. And then eventually they threw, Sting with the whole him and Cody and Darby Allin when he first came out, but then he had the whole thing with Lance Archer. You know what I mean? Like they found ways to sprinkle these guys in. I don't see Punk not like putting something onto his stuff. You know what I mean? I don't think. I think he's too smart creatively.
Realistically, are we going to get a reunion of the Straight Edge Society? Because we can.
There's so many. It's funny because I know he talked about how not just the young guys, but there's a lot of scores to settle, and I know he's not referencing that, but I'm just thinking like you got the Gallows, Serena Deeb, but you also got Colt Cabana sitting back there, like and as much as there's a very possibility that everything's been squashed and they just haven't made a big deal about it and stuff like that, but like.
That might be fair, like the
that Shawn could Michaels, be a huge face-off
thing.
Like that could be such a. I mean, you don't have to use one of your other big names with Punk. Not a knock on Cabana, but he's not. He's a. No. What he's always called himself is he's an entertainer. He's not a wrestler. He's an entertainer. He is the funny wrestler. He's the Doink the Clown. He is.
I hope they win.
And he enjoys that.
I hope they win the tag title.
He enjoys that, but the moment they face off in the middle of that ring for the first time might be the biggest, more than anything. And I'm even putting it with him and Daniel Bryan staring each other, him and Cabana being in front of each other, which if they do this at All Out in Chicago, they'll go nuts. Chicago might be the place you need to do that face off.
That might be. So this is interesting. Like, so the one thing they did well with this is they didn't make like the wrestling fans seem like they're dumb. Like they were like, they know what's going on here. We're not going to say directly no to these things. Like he's not showing up, blah, blah, blah. But we're not going to fully acknowledge it because they know, like the wrestling fans that listen with Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever we're going to call them. We know that he's coming. Like they're not playing dumb to that. So they know. So if you continue that idea, like they know as wrestling fans, we're not dumb about the Cabana Punk feud or their disagreement, their friendship or whatever it is. And listen, I don't want them to put it on TV if they're both not okay with it. And let's say they're strained and they don't want to interact with each other. Don't do it. Don't force it. Let them be. But they have to address it somehow. Like it has to be addressed.
I don't want to see Edge, Matt Hardy, Lita thing. I mean, just I guess, and I'll reference the Cabana thing in a second. For those that don't know, what was it? Edge, Lita was in a relationship with Matt Hardy and was cheating on him with Edge, and WWE used it for an actual storyline on TV.
Well, they got rid of
while it was happening.
They got rid of Matt Hardy, and then they brought him back while she was dating Edge, and like that was why he came back or whatever. Like
so I guess for because I know a lot of our friends might not be into non-WWE stuff as much. For those of you that may be listening, the whole Colt Cabana CM Punk thing is that they were friends from Chicago. They wrestled all over the place with each other, to the point that when Punk left WWE, which had a lot of reasons why he left. I know a lot of people throw the whole, he took his ball and went home.
He lost a smile.
He didn't get a main event in WrestleMania, so that's why he left. It sounds like he eventually addresses it after legal battles, all this stuff. He addresses it on a podcast that was run by Colt Cabana. Before podcasts were this cool, Colt Cabana used to run one, and he saved it for that. Let's be real. Podcast.
Let's be real. Punk would have been on this podcast telling the story if
he was. If we were around and if Colt Cabana didn't have one, I'm pretty sure we were second in line.
Yeah.
So he goes on, tells the story, all this stuff. He blames the doctor a little bit for them not treating him. So it's this whole legal battle where Colt Cabana and CM Punk are in with them, and all this shit happens. Basically, the end of the story is Colt Cabana ends up suing CM Punk for legal fees because whatever the hell happened. There's a lot of he said, she said stuff, and we don't know the ins and outs, but basically it strained their friendship, and they both at one point I think were suing each other, and then they both decided to back off of it, and you haven't heard anything about them since. So now, come full circle here, years later, Colt Cabana has been in AEW now for at least a year, I'd say, a member of the Dark Order, and now here comes CM Punk. So that is one of those things that you're kind of waiting, like you said, to at least be addressed.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, if they don't want to be in the ring together, if they don't want to be around each other, that's fine.
But you have to address it somehow.
You may need to talk them into like fist bumping each other in between something, just to be like, hey, look, they're kind of cool. They're not going to start anything.
Like they said, they need to address it somehow, just because we know it's out there.
Yeah, and you're going to be waiting for it. You're going to be waiting for it.
Holy shit! Sorry. So the day we're recording this, and I hope everyone's all right that may be listening to this or anything like that. The hurricane storms hit last night. Flooding's all over the place. It's just not good. And, you know, hopefully everybody's doing all right and nothing serious happened. But I just got a text of why one of the roads by our house is completely closed. One due to flooding, the other due to there's now a giant sinkhole that's taking up the entire street.
Wow.
So that, holy shit. So please continue your speaking of sinkhole, we hope that Cabana and Punk don't go into a sinkhole to tie everything together, which is what I'm good at doing. Yeah. Like, here's the thing, they know that wrestling fans are smart, they understand. And listen, they're going to get a pass now, but like, if Punk's there for 2 years and there's no Cabana Punk interaction, like, we can figure it out, but I think they just need to do something to possibly address it.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, if he's going through everybody in the roster, because listen, he says he wants to work with young guys. John Silver, Alex, is it Alex Reynolds?
Yeah, it's his partner.
Yeah, like those two guys, those are right up there. That would be right in the wheelhouse, I think, for Punk wanting to work with. Punk mentioned Brody Lee was one of the reasons why. Like, listen, Punk's going to want to work with probably Hangman Page. Hangman Page is probably like the new leader, quote unquote.
I mean, I'm still holding out hope, but for who the next leader is going to be. But
who, Bray Wyatt, or?
Well, I mean, I don't think he's going to be a next leader. I could see him coming in and basically breaking, like, dismantling them.
I think Dark Order's around for the long haul.
Well, they've already teased them fighting.
Well, they teased it because the one dude left on paternity leave. That's Alex Reynolds had to leave because he was having a base similar to Hangman Page. So like, they're coming back. Like, Dark Order's not going anywhere because mostly, and whether it's good or bad, whatever you think of it, I think I'm fine with it. Like, it's not Brody Lee. Like, that's where it's just.
Well, I guess I'm not saying necessarily dismantle, but attempting to, and then that's when like, I could see a Hangman, Wyndham Rotunda, which I'm assuming that would be the name he'd be going by there. If he were to sign with AEW, which I hope he does. I know there's Impact was going after him. I love
him. I think he's great. He's a great character. And it just, for me,
but his character it's advanced. I think he's too creative to not. I don't watch the other shows. No offense to Impact fans out there, but it's awful. It's awful. I'll say it. In my opinion, it's awful.
Impact.
I've seen some stuff on Impact that is worse than like 90s WWF stuff. Like, it's just so bad. It's not even kind of funny. Like, it's just bad.
Like recently, or
when Omega first started going on there, I started watching Impact, and every episode I'm watching multiple times, go back into a casino thing with Fala having money problems, and he keeps begging people for money so he can gamble, and it's just so bad. And then the one guy was getting charged for murder, And Tommy Dreamer had so much pull that he can get him into a match that would get him off of murder. And he shot the guy in the head and he forgot who he was. This is all happening on Impact.
All right,
In between all this Kenny Omega comes up stuff. Yeah, watch a full episode.
Well,
they might have got away from it, but I stopped watching it.
It's not even just the Kenny Omega stuff. It's the whoever their X Division champ is. Oh my god, I can't think of his name. He's part of the North.
Josh Reynolds.
Josh Alexander.
Alexander, yeah.
Josh Alexander. He like the X Division is phenomenal.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying in ring. I don't have problem. It's the stories. The stories are they're just so bad. Like they're not even. I feel like they're not even trying to be good. Like I feel like Vince McMahon is sending him like this stuff that he really wants to do over to Impact, and they're like, okay, let's do it. I just the moment they were talking about him being charged with murder, and I don't even remember who the hell the dude was. I didn't know who any of them were, and it was the one guy, I forgot who he was, and he got shot in the head by the guy, and they were going to get him for attempted murder. And Tommy Dreamer said, "You have a match. If you win, we'll let you go." And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It was at Johnny Swinger or whatever the guy's name is. He acts like the Disco Inferno or whatever the hell he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
but he runs the casino in the back. That's what I said. Like the first couple episodes was a lot of that around everything else. I'm like, come on, man. Like you have eyes of people who don't normally watch that want to see Kenny Omega come here. Don't show me this shit. Like just don't. And again, some people are entertained by it, and I don't fault you for that. It's the same thing. I'm never going to fault somebody for loving WWE. Impact's not my cup of tea.
What you think?
Purely for those reasons.
What you think of SummerSlam?
Didn't watch it.
Really?
Didn't watch a second of it.
Wow.
I looked up results. I told you I have, other than Royal Rumble and honestly even WrestleMania, I'm iffy on.
It wasn't bad. Like the Edge Seth Rollins match was exactly what you wanted it to be. Reigns Cena was, I thought, fantastic. The Becky Lynch Bianca Belair stuff, like that's where WWE loses trust when you compare the weekend. So a lot of similar stuff happened this weekend. You had a guy that basically didn't say anything, but he asked fans to put their trust in him to buy these tickets to watch the show, and hey, this is going to pay off for you if you trust me, and it did. When on the other side, you have kind of WWE with like, hey, we're giving you this match with Sasha and Bianca, and apparently they knew for like a week or something that Sasha wasn't going to be able to go, so they do the last minute thing to bring back Becky and then just have it go over like that, which is just like
there was even a rumor out there a week before where they said they didn't think Bianca and neither one of them was going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
To the point that they were talking about canceling the match. And like you said, they knew that Sasha wasn't ready to go. They knew it.
Yeah. And that's what
they kept advertising it.
And that's what I read something to where it's just like you had probably little girls there that were excited to see Sasha Banks because that's their hero. And you lied to them. You lied to them saying that she was going to be there. When if they did know, like now again, we don't know the inner workings or anything like that to where, but it's saying that they knew she wasn't going to be there, but they still went ahead and continued to advertise it up until the very last minute. And that's shitty. That's what's shitty in my mind. With like that's what put like a bad taste in my mouth of the weekend with it.
Right.
Oh man. Who wins? Punk or Darby?
I think Punk does. I don't think Darby needs to go over Punk. And I think if you have Punk lose, it puts that little hint of, well, he's older. He's not as good. I think you're going to see it's going to be very reminiscent of, actually, it was in Philly, the Philly street fight, Darby Allin and Jericho when he wrestled for the title on Dynamite. I think it's going to be very reminiscent of that, where Punk's going to have to pull out all the stops to finally go over, and then I think he'll end up going over. I don't see him not. I don't see any funny business. I see this being a clean match.
When does it go on? Does it close out the night? is this match bigger than
Unfortunate.
is this match bigger than the championship match
Yes.
between
I
what about
say
the tag
yes.
team title match?
Yes. I think there is 2 reasons that will stop this from not going on last. I think it should go on last. There's 2 reasons why it won't. One, if Bryan Danielson shows up, when is he showing up and how is he showing up? If he's showing up in some random match, okay, that won't go on last. If he's getting involved, let's say at the end of a Kenny Omega Christian match, that makes sense to go on last. Adam Cole is another one. If he comes out and helps the Elite in any way in either one of those matches, I can see that match going on last with Adam Cole helping them. Other than those 2 things, I think all things being equal, the heavyweight championship goes on first. And then I think you end with Punk and Darby.
Interesting.
I think that match is the least back and forth on who's going to win. I think the moment Christian won the Impact title, I think it drastically dropped his odds of winning that match.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah,
where are you thinking as far as
Punk's gonna win? I think. Based off what Punk's saying, he wants to put over young guys, but I think
you can put over a guy without
yeah,
losing.
and you can't have Punk lose in his return match. It's similar to Cena The Rock at Mania 28 when Rock went over Cena in the main event in Miami.
No.
So to me, it's very similar. But yeah, I think Punk wins. I don't know where it goes on, to be honest. Part of me says it should be first because the real part of me wants it to go on last. And the reason why is completely selfish is because I have to, for those that may be listeners of the show, and remember we had a third co-host, PG. I have to actually pick him up from the airport that night. So I may not be getting home in enough time to catch the very beginning of it. So I really hope it doesn't go on first.
Right.
But to me it makes sense to go first because like you get that pop, you get that energy to start off the night of where do people want to watch this, but then you also then lose it because like, all right, once Punk goes, I'm not as invested. I do want to watch it, but I may like look away and not be fully attentive to watching the rest of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They got my $40, $50, whatever. So it doesn't matter, but I will say I think they value getting my $50 more than like they appreciate it seems.
Yeah. I think there's only 3 spots it can go on in my mind. There's only really 3 spots.
Yeah, first match, sub main event, or main event.
Yeah, it has to be one of those 3. I'd be hugely surprised if you've seen that match and then the tag team titles and then because I think the tag team titles will be first I think those are the 3 matches that you're going to see in some form be the first. The tag match I could see going on in the middle.
I actually see Jericho MJF going first.
Okay.
Just because
again, all this stuff it's a good lineup. Yeah, and the worst part is the match I was most excited for isn't happening, and I'm still super excited for the card. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say. I mean, I assumed Andrade was going to go over, but we haven't seen a whole lot of Pac because of the travel issues, which is exactly why they're not having this match. Yeah. But we haven't seen a whole lot of him, and that match just has like best match of the night written all over it. Oh my
god, yeah, like that should be a technical masterpiece.
Yeah.
So Brian Danielson, he's debuting, and it's all like confirmed. Is it as big as of a debut as Punk?
No. I know they tried to save it.
We'll say Punk's 100%. We'll say like that is the 100%. Jesus, this sun and the glare on my. Apologize for anybody watching the video. But let's say Punk's 100%. What is this Bryan debut of like 100 of that 100%? Let's say Punk's the very top. Where's he at? Is it 50? Is it lower than 50? Is it like
I think
75?
he's about 75, and I think it could have been at its peak 90. I think Punk debuting so close takes a little bit of luster away from it.
Yeah.
And I also think because we've been waiting on it for a while. Like I honestly think if you see Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole both show up, Adam Cole gets the bigger pop of the two.
Yes, well, it's also it's because I think Adam Cole has, like, you can get the bigger pop because, like, yes, Daniel Bryan has yes. That's going to be a lot of yeses, and it just draws out. Adam Cole, you have one thing, baby, and that's going to get.
If they wrestled, if Daniel Bryan, let's say he comes out and wrestles Andrade, he gets a bigger pop. If he's coming out to help somebody or just coming out and announcing he signed, and they both do it equally, I think Cole gets the bigger pop, purely because it's more recent too. And like Cole's just become a free agent.
Yeah.
So like Bryan, we've been waiting on a little bit. And it's like, even with the Punk thing, and that's where I go back and saying I believe him when he says I want to be here. Apparently this was a year and a half in the making.
Yeah.
They were going to do it around the pandemic, but they didn't want to do it with no crowd. So like, it's not like this was just something that came up out of nowhere with him, that he's been waiting. He's been biding his time. They've been talking and he's been saying, hey, I'll sign. So he's been ready. And I know he trained for the heel show and everything like that. So he's at least in somewhat wrestling shape.
Did you watch that?
I watched the first episode, and then Jess told me to wait for her to watch the next two. So I'm still waiting.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed the first episode, and I'm excited to watch the rest. And I've given her a couple more days before I watch it without her. But yeah.
This is your morning, Jess.
yeah. Yeah. I'll end up watching it before this even gets put on. But like, Bryan, I think would have been a bigger deal because they were trying to wait for the Wimbledon or whatever.
Arthur Ashe.
Yeah, Arthur Ashe. They were trying to save it for that, but because New York's one of the places cracking down with COVID, they're worried about that. And I completely get that. If Punk was supposed to debut about a year and a half ago and then it got ruined because of COVID, I can completely understand. They're like, hey, we just want to get Bryan out there. We want people to pop for him so that we can use him. Like they weren't able to use Punk for so long. Like that, I completely understand. And it's the unknown that we're dealing with right now. So it's just like, hey, they have almost I don't want to say a guarantee, but all else probably happening. Let's get a debut there and just move along, because if it has to move back to, like, if they have to move back to Jacksonville or whatever, at least Punk debuted in front of, or Punk and Danielson debuted in front of a crowd, which is what he wanted. Now I'm going to veer on the Danielson thing because we're talking about this a little bit, even though I still had some Punk stuff. I'll go on this. As far as him debuting, where do you think he debuts on the card? Like, not necessarily match, like involved in a match. Do they just announce him? Does he,
I don't know, the whole like, if they're gonna have him rest, like do that Andrade thing to where they do an open challenge.
Let's say he doesn't wrestle. Let's use that argument that he will not be wrestling Andrade. He won't be wrestling anybody. You think he opens?
Yeah.
I have a weird Big Show and QT Marshall, as Jim Ross likes to still call him Big Show, Paul White. I have a weird feeling you might see him involved in that. I don't know why. I just have a very weird feeling you're going to see him involved in that.
If Daniel Bryan doesn't wrestle, I think he definitely opens the show, because I think that's a very good pop to open the show and let it continue on into it. And plus, in theory, you could have Daniel Bryan replace have him as an interview segment, open the show, and have him replace Andrade Pac without putting a new match in there. Timing wise of the show, you give him.
Well, I think they already adjusted.
Did they? They moved
the women's
the women's casino battle royal.
Yeah, that's why when Andrade said that, I was a little surprised, because I'm thinking, like, you're not going to bring out Bryan and squash Andrade with Bryan. You already kind of filled the time in with the women's casino battle royale. So unless you have like Marco Stunt answer it and have Andrade beat him like in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Just have somebody come out and just get squashed by Andrade. That's the only thing I can
Does Adam
possibly
Cole
think of.
debut? Does Adam Cole sign with AEW?
I would have said yes. He's definitely going to be there until it got rumored that Danielson was going to be there. I would not doubt that they wait until Wednesday to debut him.
Do you think Ruby Soho is going to be the Joker?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is almost was more of a guarantee than anything else that she was going to be in that. And it's going to be great. I would love to see her win it. I don't think she's going to. I haven't seen them do that yet with any of the surprise. I guess they did it with Cage.
And they technically did it with Hangman as well. Like the first Casino Battle Royal, he won the.
Was he a surprise entrant?
Yeah, he came in as the Joker.
No, I don't mean the Joker win. I mean like a surprise debut.
Yes, he was.
I know Cage
he was
did
surprised.
it.
Yes, he was surprised because at the first one he was supposed to wrestle Pac. Pac got hurt, I think.
But again, I'm talking about like nobody even knew Cage was even talking to AEW, let alone signed with them. So that's what I mean. I guess in that kind of, I mean, I guess she's the perfect person to go in there and compete. I think you're more likely going to see Thunder Rosa and see that feud play out until the next pay-per-view probably. Where Britt Baker keeps ducking her with the, with her title shot or whatever, and then you finally see it result. Was it Full Gear? I'm assuming is the next one.
I don't know. I forget. I don't know what their schedule is.
Yeah.
So,
but I will say I have a bone to pick with you because when they announced they were going to United Center, I texted you. I found flights. I was going to bring my work laptop with me. I was going to work at the hotel. And I'm telling you, I had them sitting there with your information and my information waiting for you to say yes. Dude. Because if you said yes or I'll try, I would have gotten them and then worked around it. But I had every intention on flying to Chicago, going to that show. And that, because at that point, it wasn't even hinted at Punk. I know people were thinking it, but there was tickets available to that show at that time. And I would have flew home that next morning.
I looked at it too. It was just,
because
the money, like,
I would have, I mean, I should all pay for it, but yeah, the money was not crazy at that moment. When I first said something to you, the tickets were cheap for Rampage. Even the flight and the hotel was not outrageous. But yeah, that's all I thought about when I was watching it was I should have been there.
Yeah,
that would have been
all right. So the Punk stuff's over. So something we haven't talked in we've talked, but we haven't, on a podcast talked about like wrestling in 2 years. What's one thing you've really liked so far over the last 2 years that kind of surprised you? Like, we'll remove the Punk stuff. Like this, something like it was just like it came out of nowhere or something. I'll go my example first, maybe to help you think. Right. Matt Cardona, man. Matt Cardona as this GCW, I guess, Universal Champion now, has been, and it's very recency bias on it, but the character he is playing is chef's kiss beautiful. Have you seen any of it?
Bits and pieces of it. I seen when he won the title and everything. I did see that.
Give people an idea. I guess I don't know a whole lot about GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. I think it's a promotion I think it's a lot run by Joey Janela. I don't know if it's fully run or if he's part of it or whatever, but I guess the best way to describe it is, I don't want to say ECW, but it is more of a hardcore style wrestling. They do a lot of death matches. And their champion was Nick Cage, who he wrestled Jericho in one of the 5 Labors of Jericho recently on AEW in a death match. And so this dude is I guess the best way to compare him for older fans is Sandman is the best way to probably describe him. Kind of that look, his persona, like he just, I don't know.
The white New Jack.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison. But so like I guess him and Cardona like beefed up a Twitter war because Matt Cardona is the quintessential WWE guy. Big guy, not hardcore at all, like very safe or whatever like that. Well, he went over there, did a death match, and won the death match to win the GCW championship. But he's been referring to it all in WWE terms, to where he calls the fans there the GCW universe. When he surprise debuted, he actually came in a full like dark cloak, and he did John Moxley's mannerism. So everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Moxley! It's Moxley!" He took the hood off. The crowd booed him out of the arena. It was fantastic, and he's just been playing up this WWE style. And he's like, "Why do you fans hate me? I'm the best," or I forget every other stuff, all the things he done. But man, he won the title in a match. He then started coming dressed. Now this is I don't know if anybody will remember this. Came out dressed when Vince McMahon won the ECW championship when it was in WWE. He's come out dressed like Vince McMahon, black shirt, do-rag. That's how he's fighting with the title. It's brilliant. I think it was today on Instagram, he just showed a video of the new belt he made for GCW. He made a spinner belt.
I did not see that.
It is the best thing going, I think. Those fans hate him. And it is the best. Because we known him as Zack Ryder, and this is not Zack Ryder, it's not Zack Ryder. It's whatever it is, and he's a goofball as it is because everyone knows him for the toy collecting and stuff like that. And he's winning that. He won a death match. It's absolutely incredible. So that was, I guess, my one surprise thing that's kind of come out with all these releases and everything like that. It's just like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Now, again, this is a lot of biases because every reason that this happens, and Matt Cardona.
You're a huge Zack Ryder fan. I mean, Matt Cardona, but
I followed like the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. I listened to it all. Like so it is very biased that he is one of my favorite. So,
all right. Well, the most surprising thing that's happened in 2 years in my mind.
Well, I'm not saying surprising. I don't know.
Well, I will say, I'll say this is this has to be the most surprising thing to me. It's not my favorite. It's just I guess it's my favorite in a sense because I don't want to watch WWE anymore. But how do you release Bray Wyatt if you're WWE? Fox legit based their whole SmackDown thing around him. You remember when Fox first, and this is something we talked about when we were last doing the podcast about how Fox was just getting SmackDown. They paid all this money and all this stuff. They were legit having the Fiend pop up in the middle of commercials and in like football games and not saying anything, just showing him pop up, like to be like, wait, what the hell is that? Like they begged for him. They wanted to base everything around him. They knew what we all knew, and it was that Firefly Funhouse and Bray Wyatt, and he just, there's something about it. And if you play it right, it could have been, and I know some people might not like that and say this, it could have been bigger than The Undertaker. It could have been bigger than The Undertaker. If they played it right, it could have.
I think bigger than The Undertaker is a hard thing to say. It could have been our modern day Undertaker. I think a better way to describe it because it could. If you played it
right in a day and age where you don't believe shit about wrestling. I mean, the dude, when he made his debut, came out with the lantern and the face, which was supposed to be his face on it. They legit were saying kids were crying, that parents were saying scary, like, we don't want it. Like as an adult, I watched it and was like, this is creepy as shit. Like it had a very weird thing. And you know what? And he played that the Firefly Funhouse as some creepy guy who's trying to get your kids to like, come to the dark side.
So you know what? You want to know what's fun? And this is interesting. So like, let's say Bray Wyatt debuts. He can use the Firefly House theme song if he wants to.
Really?
Well, I don't know. Whatever the entrance song that he came into, not as the Fiend, but as Bray Wyatt, he can use that because WWE got that as that's like licensed music that they just
Mm.
paid for. Like they found some guy on it. So technically,
Well, like I don't expect him to use
no, I just
that
found that.
character.
I just find that
Like,
funny.
I think, and we talked about this, and I think I might even posted this on Facebook at one point. Like, currently, and now I will include Adam Cole in that. Like, you have possibly, if I'm quickly doing the numbers here, 7 of like the most top 10 over characters in WWE that are not there anymore over like the last like 15 years. I mean, Punk after the pipe bomb was the biggest thing. Daniel Bryan's Yes Movement was being done by people who didn't even know who the hell they were doing it for.
Yeah.
It was being done everywhere at wrestling events, not wrestling events, at sporting events.
Soccer
Yeah,
was a big
but
one.
I remember seeing it. I think they were like recording like a live TV show and the crowd was doing it. It was so over. Bray Wyatt, watching it come out with the light and stuff, when he would come out and you got the whole world in his hands and stuff, and the crowd would sing along to it. That almost gave me just as much chills as the Undertaker's entrance did at WrestleMania when everybody had the lights out. And the only reason it didn't is because it wasn't dark enough when he first came out. And then the Fiend, like you're talking about 2 of his characters. You have Zack Ryder was one of the most over characters. Rusev Day was one of the most over things they had. Adam Cole, one of the most over wrestlers. And it, like, I get that, like, none of them, not a single one. Rusev might be the only one that fits somewhat of their stereotype of what they want to push, because Wyatt was never that. He was a Kevin Owens. He was always heavy, like, and that's not what they want. They want you to be built, not heavy looking. And everybody else was just smaller. I mean, even Adam Cole is a smaller guy. They don't fit the mold, and it's just, I guess, more than the Bray Wyatt, it's just surprising to see what made WWE bearable for some people. They just almost cut it all. They either forced guys out or got rid of them. And it's crazy. It is crazy to me to see that. And it's sad. I feel bad for the guys that are there that would be flourishing on the indies right now. A guy like Kevin Owens with this whole Forbidden Door thing could make his way around everywhere. And he could be literally feuding with Omega in every single one of these places for different titles. He would be such a Sami Zayn.
Here's the one thing though, with Kevin Owens, and this is where I'll do the other side. Yeah. But his kid also, I think, likes seeing him. And that's where just like you don't understand, like yeah, we want to, because we want to see these, we want to see Kevin Steen back. We want to see El Generico. Like, we don't want to, like, because WWE's not doing anything with like the characters that these wrestlers created. They're trying to fit them in this mold. We want to see these things elsewhere and blossom, but it's just like you can't, like, whatever reason they're deciding to stay there, and whether it be contract or just like it's the best thing for their family situation. It sucks for us as a fan, because it's just like, and I think they probably know, like, you could see so much more in them.
I watched characters they could have pushed to the moon and could be sitting there at the top.
Well, they're doing
right
that
now
already with Cameron Grimes. You know who I'm the
yes, I know.
Okay.
I know.
Listen, that storyline has been great. That's another one.
I know, but like,
because the best part about that is it's based off like real life, to where he made a bunch of money on the AMC stock stuff that was going on, and they brought back $1 Million Man. Oh my god, it was a great storyline, and it's also a great way to get what's his name, Eli Drake, like LA Knight. That's what they're calling him now. Great story,
but like, let's see, we haven't been doing episodes in a while, but I remember NXT, now they're rebranding it and stuff, basically be developmental again. But like, I seen people were blaming the Ciampa Gargano feud for being the death of NXT. that was the most interesting NXT had ever been. Like, Ciampa as a heel might have been the best. And again, I may be biased and I loved his character, but he might have been the best NXT champion that they had as far as his storylines, his character that he played, all that stuff. And they had a time and a place that they could have moved him up. But they always treated those guys like they were indie guys that deserved to stay down in NXT. Even Finn Balor, who went up and became the first Universal Champion, there's a reason why he went back. And I know he's on SmackDown now or whatever, but like they never fully go all in with these guys.
The best way Finn actually described it, the best way is, at least before, we don't know what NXT is going to look like, and we should probably end it after this, just because I feel like we're going into the 2-hour range possibly. Yeah. He described like SmackDown Raw, that's the movies, that's the lights, the glam, all that stuff. NXT is Broadway. It's where an actor gets to act, and that's what NXT is. That's what AEW is. It's where a wrestler gets to wrestle. And you have people that want to do that, and and that's where, like, yeah, they could have moved Ciampa up, but he might not be an actor. He's not a movie star. He's an actor. Yeah. And that's where
I don't know. And again, and I disagree with a lot of people. And again, we will have plenty of episodes that we could talk about stuff like this. But like,
we're doing more than this.
Yes, yes.
This was damn.
We can't wait 7 more years for Punk to return again. But like, I disagree with people about a guy like Cesaro, or hell, even Big E. There are certain guys that I think they are what they are because there's limitations, but then there's other guys like a Kevin Owens that, I mean, they came in and let him beat John Cena while he was the NXT champion. Like, he came in as that guy that just dominated. He beat Sami Zayn for the title by literally just beating him down in the ring to the point that they had to stop the match. Like, he came in as this dominant guy, comes in and even beats your main guy. And then like he interacts in the ring. Some of the my favorite matches are with him just in the ring, literally just talking shit, and you can hear him on the TV. He's so entertaining. And you know what they did? They kidified him, and then they gave him the stunner. And I'm sorry that he's never going to be a main guy there. He just isn't, because you know why? Because he's viewed as an off-brand Stone Cold, because that's what they want you to view him as.
Yeah.
And he never will break that mold now. Not in WWE. He just won't. That's what he's going to be. He's going to be that guy.
Maybe our next episode, we just shit on WWE.
I feel bad doing it. I personally do not like what WWE has done for some time, to the point that you were just surprised to know that I have not watched a second of SummerSlam, and I don't intend on it. I seen pictures of Becky Lynch coming out. I did not watch a video of her coming out. I did not watch a single thing of what happened.
I will say, though, Peacock is so worth it for the $5 a month now. Like, you get the WWE Network, and then you get Office and all that.
It's funny, when it moved over there, my dad, my dad, and my brother, we kind of all go through it. And he's like, "Do you still watch it?" And my brother said, "Yeah, I kind of do." And I said, "No, you do it." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because The Office is on there, and I lost it on Netflix." And with Xfinity, you get the basic one for free. Yeah, so we get the non-commercials for $5. You know what I mean? Without the commercials, so it makes it even better.
I get the commercials for $5, and that's
what we could technically get it for free. And I was like, "Hey, it's still half the price of what you were paying for the network."
Yeah,
and you don't have to watch commercials, so you get the best of both worlds. And I get to watch The Office whenever I want to again. So that's plus side.
We just watched Harry Potter in the background all the time, so Peacock's worth it. So,
all right, so many different services now. I don't know where to go.
All right. Let's try to wrap this up now. So, I guess this was fun. I don't know yet.
I fully expected us to get off the handle. I mean, I still have notes on CM Punk that I didn't really touch on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always, listen, this is always painful just looking.
Well, Well, how about we usually have our last thoughts, right?
We
There
do.
was
I never listened to the podcast, so
I don't know. I guess I haven't either. I just assume you cut it off at some point whenever an hour hits mid sentence. Just stop it.
yeah.
I guess since this was a Punk episode, I will end it with this. All right, we'll wrap it up here. My one big thing with the people that are basically blowing Punk for him coming back, he's the savior and all this other stuff. AEW is going to be what AEW is going to be. It's never going to be bigger than WWE. I can admit that. It's more entertaining than WWE wrestling wise. But it's just never going to be there. It is what it is, and it's gotten bigger than probably any wrestling is going to be in this day and age. And we should be happy about that as wrestling fans. Now, for those out there that don't understand the CM Punk hype, and we'll probably have some people that will listen to this and won't understand it. And that's fine. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand the hype of a lot of wrestlers. I guess I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I've seen too many people saying Punk sucks, Punk quit on us, Punk did this, Punk did that. Now,
see, this is where
I've never been a fan of that idea, and this is where my end rant is coming. I've never been of the thought that if I see Joel Embiid on the street, he has to stop and talk to me and be friendly, because
I like how you said Embiid instead of Simmons.
Yeah, I didn't want to run down that road.
Again, let the big dogs eat podcast.
Yeah. I mean, any athlete, I don't think that they owe me anything. They don't. In all honesty, most of them, I would take a picture from a distance because I wouldn't want to bother them if I seen them when I was out. And the thing that people love about Punk and hate about Punk is that he's real. He is real. He will tell you flat out to your face, I'm busy. If you asked me nicer, I would have said, okay, get the hell out of here. Whether it's a guy with a kid or not, because let's be honest here, for those out there that like to say, you have a kid, you get it. He ain't lying. That he said it in the pipe bomb, and he said, "Used people are just as big of a reason why I'm leaving as anything else, because at 3:00 in the morning, you'll stop me at the airport to get an autograph to sell it on eBay because you're too lazy to get a real job." And there are a lot of people out there to do it. And to be honest with you, he's doing something nice. Don't be a dickhead to him. He won't be a dickhead to you. He doesn't owe you anything. All the people that say you paid his bills and all this stuff, no, the fuck you didn't.
No, we bought his house. We bought his house. Get it right.
I know. He references it in the podcast and stuff, but I know a lot of athletes have a problem with it. And you know what? They have every right to be a dickhead to you. They already have to do all these other things and all that stuff, and they're out in public, and I get it. And if you're going to be nice to them, most of them will be nice to you. Unless it's MJF who plays his character all the time, which, in all honesty, I want him to spit in my face because that's why I went up to him. I want to see if he'll keep character. But, like, if you're going to be a dickhead, expect a dickhead back. He doesn't owe you to be the nicest person in the world. Hulk Hogan, probably the biggest wrestling name of all time, has been in trouble for literally saying the N-word on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like these guys are human. They're normal people, and CM Punk will just tell you to your face. He won't be fake and beat around the bush. He'll tell you to your face, and people don't like that. They don't like being told the truth. He tells you the truth, and that's why some people love him and some people hate him. And you might not have liked him, and you might not understand it, but the fact of the matter is, like I said about The Rock, I was never a huge Rock fan. I'm still not, but I respect who he is. I know who he is, and I know how entertaining he is for most people, to the point that I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, they brought The Rock back. This is awful. He can't wrestle. He's awful.
That's what I say with Goldberg.
But even that, his name is bigger than wrestling. He can't fucking wrestle to save his life, but neither could Hogan.
Yeah, don't watch the Bobby Lashley Goldberg match. You can skip that one.
I haven't watched Hogan's wrestling since before he went to WCW. I did not sit there and watch a Hogan match at that age when he was still kind of sort of in his prime. I didn't want to watch a Goldberg match when he was in his prime. He couldn't wrestle then either.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't watch his match for a wrestling clinic. You went out there hoping he was going to beat the guy within seconds. That's what you were hoping for. That whole him and Undertaker wrestling didn't make any sense. Because Undertaker has been carried over the last however many years, and Goldberg's been carried his whole career. Like,
all right, so the next episode is going to be shitting on Goldberg.
But I'm saying for those people out there that don't understand it, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to understand it. But the fact of the matter is, and you were always a bigger Punk fan than I was, Punk is what we want to see. He has stepped up for the business side of things that it will never change.
Here's the one thing I'll say with Punk too, like what we want to, like, listen, like Jay-Z said, he was on top of the game when he left. I can't quote whatever the fucking rap song is by Jay-Z. I forget the name of the song. But either way, here's the thing. Like, Punk has just come out. He's delivering the promos, it seems like, but nothing crazy. Like, he like, we're still in that, like, honeymoon phase almost with Punk coming back. This Sunday, he has to prove it. He has to back it up to see, like, can he still wrestle? Is he going to be blown out? Like, the one thing with Rock and Cena, the first one, I think it was the first one. It was a good match. Rock still kind of had it, it looked like, but it wasn't like, it was a Rock match, which was good, which was really good because Rock wasn't always the most technical wrestler. Yeah. He got his spots.
He sold well. And that was
and that's where it's good. So when Punk comes back now, listen, Punk's expectations are super high because he was a good wrestler. Yeah. And those things, like, he still, like, that match has to carry, like, that match has to be good, or else it just like, listen, like, Punk's still one of the best. He's one of my favorites, and like, that may drop down him a level for these, like, if he can't go, like,
he has to be 80% of what we've seen him last,
exactly,
or this dies down, and the people that were
you're going to have a lot angrier fan base than I think.
You're not expecting, even though I think the rumor is he's back for 8 to 10 matches or whatever, and that's fine. I know Jim Cornette hates this too. This is one thing that I seen that he hates, that MJF doesn't wrestle that much. I love that. I love that they don't wrestle as much, because then when they wrestle, it makes it feel special, and that's fine. But we want him to take it serious to the point that he talks about he came back for the love of wrestling to wrestle these guys. If you're a fraction of what you were, and you don't get any better after that first match, I think you almost give him 2 matches. You give him that first match, jitters and stuff. If that second match, he looks just as bad and looks winded and stuff, then you feel like, how much did they pay him to come back?
So here's where, like, let's look at the schedule. This is realistically what he's probably doing. All right, he's wrestling at All Out. He's wrestling at the Arthur Ashe show in New York. Does he wrestle in Philadelphia? Because that's like 2 weeks afterwards. And that's where I think it makes sense for him to wrestle, because if he's saying he's coming back for wrestling, like, maybe it'd be a tag team match or something like that. Like, actually, the Arthur Ashe show, I would expect maybe as a tag team match. Yeah. Probably. I don't think it will be a singles one, and maybe that's how we get. It will probably, actually, honestly, it'll be a. I can tell you what the match is going to be right now. It's going to be a 6-man tag: Punk, Darby Allin, Sting versus 2.0 and Danny Garcia. I think that's his name. I don't know.
You think they'll still stretch that on? I'm curious if another group sticks their nose in, like maybe you get like a Pinnacle or something. After this whole Jericho thing, where
if you look at timing of it, it makes sense though, because you have Darby Allin going against one of them tonight. There's 3 of them. There's now going to be 3, because then you're going to have the story of Punk, like the handshake after the match, and Punk is raising Darby's hand, and they come out and attack him and stuff like that, and then it can just play into where, like, maybe they beat up Punk, that Punk's not there the next week afterwards or something like that, and then you have. Like, let's look. Hold on, I want to look at a calendar just to make sure. So second, so you have All Out. So maybe he's not there Wednesday the 8th, but then he's there Wednesday the 15th, and that sets up the match, a 6-man tag match for the 22nd at the Arthur Ashe show. Makes sense. Yeah. That makes logical sense, because you don't, like, if you bring him in a new tag team, like, I don't know. I think it ties a lot of stories up, and then it also helps end the story since you had 2.0 come out and attack Punk, because Punk hasn't gotten his retribution yet fully on them. Like, I get he gave him to go to sleep, but it sets it up to kind of put a nice bow on that, and for them, because then it protects Sting, it potentially protects Punk as well.
I think there is a small tiny possibility that this might also be where you see Danielson. And maybe the 6-man tag is him and not Sting. And I'm only saying that because I could realistically, Sting said he's not going to be in the match. I could see them coming out and attacking, and then this be where Danielson comes out to make the save for Punk.
It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Like, to me, you have a perfect story right here, since you have something.
I know. I guess I'm trying to make sense of what Danielson's going to be coming out to, and I feel that has a built-in story of him and Punk and ROH where you don't have to tell a whole lot to make sense that he would come out and help Punk.
It doesn't, though, because I mean, I don't think they weren't like the best of friends in Ring of Honor. Like, even when they were in WWE, like, they weren't tag.
But when they were good guys, they were like,
they work together. But it doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
it's not like
that they're going to become a tag team.
It's not like Adam Cole coming out to like rejoin the Elite or something like that. In my mind, like, it's a good point, but I think it. But if you have Bryan debut with Punk, I think it then takes some off of Bryan, which isn't fair to him.
But that's what I said. It's just weird because I think anything you're going to do with him is going to take something off of him showing up. Like you said, you don't have to build in with the Elite. I'm trying to think of what you can give the biggest rub off of Danielson on Sunday. And in Chicago, helping Punk might get your biggest reaction for him.
I don't think it will, because you're going to have the Punk reaction, and then you're going to have the perfect example. We can talk about this. Money in the Bank 2014, maybe, whichever one we went to in Philly.
Okay.
RVD's return. RVD's return got like the it was loud for him, but it also took away it took away from something. I feel like Daniel Bryan had like a big reaction too, and maybe Punk did, but like they took away from some of RVD's, or RVD's took away from some of theirs, or something like that. Like, it was just too much, because you're not going to have that pop if you.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. If you do it at the end of the match, after the match happens, they shake hands, whatever, and then 2.0 comes out and gets the booze, and Sting said he was going to stay away, so now he's not there. So then it's like, oh my God, who's going to help them? I'm saying, like, now you got the post-match kind of thing. Again, I don't know. I don't know where he fits on the card if Adam Cole also shows up. I don't know.
I personally, I don't think Adam Cole's going to show up this week. I think legitimately he's doing the smart thing and probably just taking his time and fielding his offers, and because he's got a big life decision to make for the next, 5-ish years or something.
I think he shows up Wednesday if you don't show up Sunday.
I fully expect him, especially with if I was Adam Cole, and like, this is the one thing though, the one thing you always heard about Adam Cole is he always wanted to be in WWE. Like, that was always like the pinnacle for him. But he, like, when you see what they're doing, if I'm a wrestler and like this is my like occupation, and I see how WWE, like, listen, there's no job security there because they can let you go whenever they want. So like, you don't feel comfortable. Like, in my mind, at least, I wouldn't feel comfortable being like, even if I'm at the top of my game, I could be released because they may have thought they gave me too big of a contract, which, if I'm Adam Cole, they're overpaying for me right now. So like, in 2 years he could get released and not have this buzz like to go to AEW. Like, and I wouldn't want to just be like, oh, I'm going to do WWE, and if I get released, I'll just fall back to AEW. I want to be in the prime of my career, and whatever it is, I want to be part of something.
Right now, it's the most interesting for those guys, because like, it's even with FTR, and I know there's a rumor that after their just last match, they might they might step away from AEW because they said they wanted to win tag team titles everywhere. Now, I wouldn't doubt that they have a handshake deal with them. Like, all right, your contract's up. Go off, wrestle in New Japan, do full storylines there. Come back whenever you want to.
Doors always open. Doors always open.
And I don't think I think AEW would sign them to a contract and say, hey, if you just want to do here and there, go ahead and do it. And that's where that freedom comes in, where you're now. I see the list, and I don't know how fake or real they are, where they talk about how much money AEW guys are making. And the worst part about me reading that is it doesn't say yearly. Like Moxley, I think has like $6 million. I just signed a 4-year deal. I have no clue. It doesn't say yearly wages on there. It says how much money they're making. 2, with WWE, their contracts, they make money, plus they make money for being the main event of pay-per-views, plus they make like these contracts might be straight out this much money. This is what you're getting. That's what you're getting. You know what I mean? So like to compare one to the other, when you say, oh, Brock Lesnar made $1 million for his 3 appearances, I'm pretty sure that is without counting him getting his main event purse.
Well, they don't get that anymore, I don't think.
I think they still do. Oh, I okay. Well, even way back when, whatever. I don't know. I always take anything you see online with these amounts of money they make with a grain of salt. I just do. Like Brandy Rhodes, I think, was like the 3rd highest paid person on the roster. Nyla Rose was making just as much as Jericho, and it was like all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and could some of that be real? I don't know. Who the hell knows? But it also could have been Nyla Rose signed a 4-year deal, Jericho signed a 1, and they're making the same amount. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. You don't know. It doesn't say yearly. Nobody knows for sure. I don't care about any of these leaks. So, but like Adam Cole could make just as much money working less dates and have the freedom to go do what he wants, and he's still getting TV exposure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's more like it's along those lines of like I'm looking at it from a job security standpoint of like man, like they'll let anybody go whenever. And it's just like that's always in the back of my mind to where like, listen, my job, like could I be let go? Yeah, absolutely. Anybody can, but it's just like at the will you see that they do it. That's where it's just like it would leave me uncomfortable. It's where I think he's going to AEW. I just don't know when. So I think we should wrap it up here because
I think now we are at about 2 hours.
Yeah, I have one more question for you, and it's probably the most important. Do the Phillies make the playoffs?
Yes.
There you go. I like to hear it. Yeah. They'll get knocked out in that wild card game. So, alrighty. Well, this was, again, I started to say this earlier. I guess this was fun, trying to make a joke about it, and then we broke off into another 45-minute conversation about WWE financials. So either way, Punk is back. We're trying to be back.
I think everybody fully expected our first episode to be a long one. I did. I mean, we haven't talked in 2 years, really. I mean, we've talked to each other, but not that much. This is where me and you get a lot of our conversations out about wrestling. We try to save it for this
because we're nerds.
Yeah,
big nerds.
So I do have an idea for an episode. I know we don't like to throw it out there what the episode's going to be ahead of time.
Let's not promise another episode. Come on.
No. Well, depending on what happens on Sunday, there's a lot of things. I will talk to you about it afterwards, but we actually already touched on a little bit, and it was the AEW versus WWE. I would like to, but that can be whenever. That doesn't have to be our next episode, but that's something I'd like to touch on.
Here's a fun question. Do you remember what our last episode was about?
Our last episode?
The last episode we recorded, do you remember what it was about?
If I had to guess, was it the draft episode?
It was the draft episode.
Yeah. I remember making the things for it, like the pictures, and we were we had no real direction with that. We just went to do a draft.
No, you threw it. You didn't tell me about it, and you said, hey, let's do this. And
we talked about possibly playing on Fire Pro Wrestle. I'm saying when we did the draft, we had no direction as far as what we were doing with the teams. Like I think I put on Twitter who was the better team. I
probably won.
Shout out to my former co-host Fico from Let the Big Dogs Eat, the whole 4 episodes we did. he was like, remember that draft you guys did? We should do it. And I said, for what? Because I was like, what? Like, we had no direction with it. We just wanted to randomly do a draft.
Listen, if I'm being honest, based on his fantasy football draft, his team is going to suck. And he's going to be
like, how do we do it?
And he's going to be taking me to Chickies this year. So that's
how do we
shout out Matt Fico.
I'm pretty sure we did an episode with our top 10 favorite Philly sports purely because we were like, I was like, Vic, how do we do a draft between sport? Like wrestlers are wrestlers. That's one thing. We're drafting a quarterback, a center, and a goalie. How do we make this all make sense?
We can figure it out. So
that's our next episode is the sports draft and how they'd be good at wrestling.
Let's try to end it. Let's just
I'm
stop.
sorry.
No, I just don't want to do it. So, you know what? Mike, you want to take off closing this time since I officially handed the hosting duties over to you so that
No. I need you to do your awkward close one last time so then I'm ready for next episode.
Good food, good meat, good gravy. Let's eat. There you go. All right. Well, if you listen this far, thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate it. Hey, it's good to be back. We're doing this for you. Selfishly, I'm doing it for myself.
I was going to say that before you said it.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. Well, peace out, people.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time. Not next week, next time.
We're back.
We miss you, Peach.